New tonight on Our News Live at 7, former FTX CEO Sam Bankman-Fried speaks exclusively to Our News about the company filing for bankruptcy and jurisdictional matters. And 100 new cars on the way for the police force to replace an aging fleet. An investigation is underway after a fatal stabbing in Pinewood Gardens leaves a man dead Wednesday night. And then in Our News at 7:30, for the first time, the Works Minister admits he saw the BPL fuel hedging briefing he claimed he never received. Our News Live at 7 starts now. Welcome to Our News Live at 7. Thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Kendino Knowles. Sam Bankman-Fried will face a subpoena from the U.S. Senate Banking Committee if he doesn't voluntarily testify next week over significant unanswered questions surrounding the collapse of his companies, FTX and Alameda Research, both companies filing for bankruptcy on November 11th. The committee's Democratic chairman, Senator Sherrod Brown, and Republican Senator Pat Toomey writing to the former CEO of the failed cryptocurrency exchange and his lawyers saying the American people need answers about his misconduct leading to the collapse. In an exclusive sit-down interview with Jerome Sawyer this week, Bankman-Fried was questioned about the ongoing bankruptcy proceedings and its jurisdiction.
There is a judicial fight over the ongoing proceedings. Bahamian Joint Provisional Liquidators have been seeking recognition in this case. What are your thoughts on where this should play out? Do you think the Bahamas should lead this?
So ultimately, it's not going to be for me to decide. Ultimately, the regulators, the courts will make that decision. What I will say is a few things. First, I'm happy to support any of the teams. Like any team that wants my help here, I'm happy to do what I can. Second is, at the end of the day, what I think matters is trying to do right by users, trying to get as much value for users. And so any teams that are working towards that goal, towards the goal of maximizing the value of FTX, of the estate, of financing, towards, with an eye towards me doing right by users, ultimately that's what I want to optimize for. I think when you look at all of the, basically the countries that were actually involved in FTX International, right? The countries that have been regulating it, that have users on it, I think they have a really central role to play.
And more revelations coming out of the complete interview. Watch the RTV presents exclusive on the collapse of FTX Sunday at 8 p.m. right here on RTV and streaming live on the Our News Bahamas Facebook page. Meanwhile, police are investigating a Pinewood Gardens murder, the latest in a murder count that continues to climb higher into the triple digits. Reports say the incident happened at a home on Tatchpalm Avenue shortly before 8 o'clock last night as a 34-year-old man was attacked and stabbed. Police say the victim was taken to hospital where he died a short time later. Authorities say they are questioning a 20-year-old man and a 40-year-old woman. And officers nabbing a suspect in an attempted murder when they allegedly seized 5 guns following a high-speed chase last week. 26-year-old Arizona Roll stood before Chief Magistrate Joyanne Ferguson Pratt over the April 9th attempted murder of Javon Saunders. Prosecutors say Roll shot Saunders in the shoulder after she had a row with Nashante Hall outside a Village Road bar. Roll was denied bail for the attempted murder and returns to court next April. Meanwhile, Roll and 26-year-old Malik Strawn pleaded not guilty of having 5 firearms, 5 pistols, 11 rounds of ammunition, and 2.4 pounds of marijuana. Officers allegedly recovered the contraband while searching a car they were in. A bail hearing is set for December 20th. And as the crime fight continues, National Security Minister Wayne Munro says 100 new vehicles are on the way for the Royal Bahamas Police Force. Munro telling Parliament the force is in dire need of new cars, describing the current fleet as largely run down.
This administration, the member for Cat Island, Rum Cay, and San Salvador, has approved the acquisition of a new patrol vehicle for the Royal Bahamas Police Force, which will be light trucks, which in disaster times have the clearance, the clear water, has a bed to carry a generator, to carry food, to render assistance. Yes. Such is the planning of the current Commissioner of Police, that he sees fit that the fleet of the police force will be increased by 100 light truck patrol vehicles to be distributed across the islands.
Now, last year, the United States government donated 20 new Ford Police Interceptor hybrid SUVs to the force, which are being used on New Providence, Grand Bahama, and Abaco. We've got much more to get to in a moment. But for now, we check in with meteorologist Ian McKenzie for your first look at temperatures across the islands. Ian?
Thanks, Junkanoo, and good evening, Bahamas. Welcome to our forecast for this evening. Currently outside our studios, we're under partly cloudy skies with a temperature of 74. Your winds are out of the northeast at 12 miles per hour with a feels-like temperature of 80. Current temperatures across the country right now, we're under 72 in Freeport City, 75 in Marsh Harbor, 79 in Alistown, Bimini, 80 in Great Harbor Key, 75 in Governor's Harbor and Nicholstown, and 74 in our capital. In the central Bahamas, we're picking up 75 in Camps Bay, 79 in Arthurstown, Georgetown, and 75 in Coburn Towns in Salvador and Deadman's Key, Long Island. In the southeast Bahamas, we have 377s, Duncantown, Delectable Bay, and Abrahams Bay, Mayaguana, with a 76 in Colonel Hill, Crooked Island, 77 in Providenciales, and 75 in Martitown and Agua, rounding up our temperature profile for this evening. In your satellite picture at this time, not much in terms of cloud activity. However, we do have that low pressure system that's continue to spin just to the east of us, and this will generate a few spotty showers courtesy of a few pockets of clouds. Outside of that, high pressure will be the dominant weather feature across us, producing mostly dry and stable conditions throughout the remainder of the week and into early next week. That's your first look at weather. Stay tuned. More is still to come.
Still to come on our news, holiday shopping in full swing on Grand Bahama. We'll tell you some of the hottest items this month. But first, more mental health rights are on the way as senators debate legislation this morning. And later, tips for a more sustainable holiday season. That's coming up when Our News returns. Government seeking to repeal and replace the Mental Health Act of 1969 to allow for the establishment of a Mental Health Services Board and a Mental Health Tribunal. Megan Shepard has more from today's Senate debate as statistics were shared.
Contributing to the debate, Senator Barry Griffin calling the new bill extremely progressive as it seeks to protect the rights and dignity of persons diagnosed with or exhibit symptoms of mental health. Griffin shares that 1 in 4 adults worldwide experience mental illness.
Our own mental health professionals have warned us that with the increase in devastating and traumatic hurricanes and the ensuing economic hardship, we can expect an increase in mental health diagnoses in this country.
An attorney by profession, Senator Michael Barnett Ellis, noting that the new bill will allow for an enduring power of attorney, which can give advanced permission for the management of a person's affairs in the event the grantor becomes incapacitated.
Under Section 17, a person can make an advance directive for mental care. An advance directive is a document that states a person's wishes about receiving medical care in the event that they are no longer able to make those decisions themselves.
He is also calling for the establishment of a national dementia registry.
A dementia registry would allow the Ministry of Health and the Ministry of Social Services to effectively manage the delivery of services and support to persons and caregivers impacted and affected by dementia. Many families and caregivers could benefit from house visits by medical professionals. Or it's always preferable to keep individuals at home rather than as residents in a facility. But in order to know what services are necessary and who needs those services, we must have the data. A registry would give the government this information.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Megan Shepard.
Well, the holiday season is here and the Christmas shopping has begun. Atalia Hall tells us, though, that on Grand Bahama, it seems residents are stocking up on groceries for the holidays.
Well, they're checking on their selections with the toys, bicycle games, board games, the remote control toys, the educational toys.
That's Mary Thompson, supervisor of H&L School and Party Supplies, who says residents have been shopping for a variety of items.
So like business places, they buy gift certificate to give to their customers, so they can come and get whatever they want.
Store manager at Solomon's downtown Freeport, Romeo Roll, says ham and turkey are the hottest items.
We've seen some movement into like ciders and beverages, sodas and that kind of thing.
And we also checked out clothing stores.
And there's a lot of parties going on, weddings, funerals, etc. And so the constant flow of customers is now, continues coming in.
People are coming in, they're looking for gifts, they're looking for Secret Santa gifts, and we always have things that they need, down to suits, casual wear.
It appears as if there's also been an uptick in sales at local liquor stores.
We're winding down into the festive season, so we sell a lot of wines, along with the coconut rum, the pink gin, the Gordon's gin, Bailey's, the eggnogs.
When our news comes back from the break, we turn our spotlight to stories making headlines across the world as WNBA player Brittany Griner is released from Russian custody. Plus, what goes into Junkanoo judging? Our news takes you behind the scenes tonight. And on Christmas morning, after the presents have all been opened, what happens to the wrapping paper? While you may want to think twice before wrapping this year, stay with us. This is our news. Welcome back. We turn our attention now to stories making headlines across the world. U.S. basketball star Brittany Griner has been released in a prisoner swap with Russia in exchange for former arms dealer Victor Bout. President Joe Biden calling her release the end of months of hell for her and her wife. The swap was arranged after months of talks at a time of high tension between the two countries in the wake of Russia's February invasion of Ukraine. Griner was held since a week before the invasion. China began implementing a more relaxed version of its strict zero COVID policy on Thursday amid steps to restore normal life. The country reporting 21,165 new coronavirus cases today, though it was unclear whether the lower number reflected fewer infections or a reduction in testing. The relaxed anti-pandemic regulations include a loosening of lockdowns and the elimination of recent negative COVID-19 tests requirements to enter most public places. Meanwhile, the lawyer for a 24-year-old Nigerian student alleging the First Lady ordered security operatives to detain him and also supervised his beating at the country's presidential villa. The student was detained by police over a tweet he posted on June 8th that contained what prosecutors said were defamatory remarks about the president's wife, Aisha Behira. A defamation lawsuit brought against the student has since been dropped. A court in Guatemala convicted former President Otto Perez Molina and his vice president Roxana Baldetti on fraud. The scheme involved a conspiracy to defraud the state by allowing businesses to evade import duties in exchange for millions in bribes. Around 30 others, including customs officials, were implicated in the case. Their sentences have yet to be announced. And back here at home, how much do you spend on wrapping paper each year? Well, it can get pricey depending on how skilled you are with the scissors and tape. I think I'm pretty decent at it. But the bigger problem is where the wrapping paper ends up. Christina Dragovich has tonight's Sustainability First report.
Bahamas First, putting sustainability first for our people and our environment. What's first for you and the planet comes first for us.
Americans spend more than $2.6 billion annually on gift wrapping. A big part of that is wrapped up in the holiday season, with an estimated 2.3 million pounds of that paper ending up in a landfill. While our market here in the Bahamas is significantly smaller, we're still contributing to the wrapping paper problem. So here are a few tips to make your holiday season a little greener and a lot more sustainable. When packaging your Christmas presents, consider trading festive wrapping for recycled paper or a cloth alternative, or even forgo the packaging completely. Another way to go green is to cut the Christmas lights, that is, the amount of time you have them switched on, or consider solar lights outside. And of course, look for LED lights to bring your Christmas tree to life. Speaking of trees, while living trees have that real pine scent, they're discarded just days after Christmas. If opting for a plastic or reusable tree, make sure you buy one you can use year over year. And if you're looking to reduce your carbon footprint, you may want to shop local this holiday season, so you're not contributing to carbon emissions. Every small step makes a difference to a more sustainable life. And finally, think quality, not quantity. The World Wildlife Foundation recommends putting in time to pick a quality gift that will last a long time to reduce waste and the chances of having to repurchase down the line. Reporting for Our News, I'm Christina Dragovich.
Still to come in our news, today in history, find out interesting facts about the day that was December 8th and what was credited with boosting the economy of the Bahamas during Prohibition. Plus, Ian is back with your extended weather forecast. And then in our news at 7:30, how you can rep your Junkanoo group this parade season. It's all coming up when Our News returns. Welcome back to Our News. It's time now to turn our spotlight on events that shaped the day that was December 8th, including the first underwater pictures of the Bahamas and the death of a famed puppeteer. On this day in Bahamian history, in 1881, John Ernest Williamson, the inventor of photosphere who captured underwater imagery of the Bahamas, was born in Liverpool, England. He was the first man to produce undersea photographs in 1913 and undersea motion pictures in 1914. The latter was produced in the Bahamas. He also conducted 2 undersea expeditions in the Bahamas in 1929 and 1939. December 8, 1920, Harry Edward Spiller Cordo took office as Governor and Commander-in-Chief of the Bahamas, serving from 1920 to 1926. Concessions were granted to Sir Harry Cordo and Arthur Sands in 1923 to cut the pine forest on New Providence. They built a sawmill south of Gambier Village near Jack Pond. During the U.S. Prohibition, there was a huge increase in exports of whiskey from Britain to the Bahamas, as Cordo reported there were 31 bonded warehouses in the island. The British took no measures to stop the trade. Then on this day in 2008, Hubert Farrington died just 4 days before his birthday after a hit-and-run accident on Mackey Street. The former choreographer and dancer who performed in the Bahamas and internationally was also the founder of the Nassau Civic Ballet. The 83-year-old was walking near Wendy's when he was struck. He later died in hospital. Then in 2013, the Black Moses film by Bahamian filmmaker Travolta Cooper made its world premiere at Bahamas International Film Festival in Nassau. The film examines the life of the Bahamas' first Prime Minister, Lyndon Pinling. The documentary starred American actor Dennis Haysbert and features interviews with former world leaders including Brian Mulroney and Percival Patterson. In world history, on this day in 2010, the American aerospace venture SpaceX became the first commercial company to release the Dragon capsule spacecraft into orbit and successfully return it to Earth. And finally, in 2019, American actor and puppeteer Carol Spinney, who created the characteristics and mannerisms of Big Bird on Sesame Street, died at age 85. Well, the spirit of Junkanoo is entwined into Bahamian soul, culture, and history. But have you ever wondered what actually goes into the art of judging Junkanoo? It's a question we put to the chairman of the National Junkanoo Committee, who was able to explain the judging process to our Talia Hall.
The art of judging Junkanoo is something that is based upon a feeling, the spirit, right? Understanding the creativity.
And in order to become a judge, there is a process. And did you know that there are classes held for judges?
That training program is classwork. Basically, it's like a month that they go through and teach all of the aspects of what they're to be looking for during the parade.
On Bay Street, there are several items that judges are looking for, and we also learn how critical the job of a Junkanoo judge really is.
That's a big test of their integrity and pressure. You know, if you really to think about it, they're really, you know, a lot of them they're fans of the group. So, you know, it's you're testing your integrity to say that, hey, you know, I'm judging based on the criteria set for it.
Overall, the chairman says Junkanoo is more than alive, and the committee is looking forward to spectacular parades. Reporting for Our News, I'm Atalia Hall.
All right, thanks, Atalia. She's up now with the latest headlines. Atalia?
Yes, Ken, interesting story there.
Wait, but before I wanted to ask though, so do you feel like you could judge?
I don't think I'm the expert in that field. I don't think I'll stick with being a broadcaster. But it was an interesting story just to find out what goes into judging Junkanoo. You know, the classes and just being able to see what judges go through. It's a lot of pressure.
I don't think a lot of people know that. But
no.
Yeah, great effort.
Yeah, well, you got to watch the parade to find out more what judges go through during that process. Well, we are following the latest on the BPL hedging as the Works Minister making a revelation about what he knew. And our coverage continues in the lead up to Junkanoo on Bay.
New tonight on Our News Live at 7:30. The Works Minister admits he in fact received the BPL fuel hedging briefing and denying it on multiple occasions. New details tonight. And getting to the bottom of Eleuthera's water issues and what's next to bring water supply up to demand levels.
The Bahamas Association for the Physically Disabled held their Christmas play today called The Greatest Gift, and the spirit of giving was definitely in the room.
Plus, it's been a long 2 years without Junkanoo on Bay Street, but who will you be rapping during the return? Our News Live at 7:30 starts in a moment. Welcome to our news and thank you for joining us. I'm Italia Hall. Works and Utilities Minister Alfred Sayers revealing today he received details of the fuel hedging program from Bahamas power and light executives. On several occasions, the Works Minister denied receiving the details, including most recently in the House of Assembly in October. Sayers says the briefing was passed on to the Financial Secretary but was rejected. Our News understands one of the reasons was because large hotels would have benefited the most.
The financial secretary responded stating that he didn't support it. I passed that on to BPL, and BPL tried as best they could to persuade him.
Prior to today's admission, Sayers said he never received a briefing. He said while in New York in early November, he searched his email and found he did actually receive the briefing. He said at his earliest opportunity, he corrected the record in Parliament. The opposition maintains the failure of the government to execute the hedge resulted in rising power bills for thousands of Bahamians. We also asked Sayers about the contradiction between him and the Prime Minister about whether or not the PM saw the briefing too.
Amid ongoing water matters are sent from ministries to the Ministry of Finance relating to financial clearance, and it's dealt with as a technical issue. If financial clearance is rejected or it's a technical question. It is normally sent to the Financial Secretary.
Well, Works and Utilities Minister Alfred Sayers detailing the cause of water supply issues in Eleuthera after residents went 7 days without water. Berthany McDermott reports.
Amid ongoing water supply issues that's plagued Eleuthera residents for quite some time, Works and Utilities Minister Alfred Sayers says the water desalinization facility was not maintained or developed. Sayers says the storage tank in Eleuthera are operating at capacity and is barely keeping up with demand. He's also apologizing for the challenging times, adding that government will do whatever is necessary to fix the issue, even if that means a new company.
Our primary objective is the Bahamian people. And if it means bringing in somebody else, I put it right on the table.
Recently, Eleuthera residents were without water for about 7 days. This picture made the rounds of WSC Chairman and North Eleuthera MP Sylvanus Petty handing out water amid the issue. In an effort to correct it, Sayers says $2.7 million was approved to purchase storage tanks for the island. They're expected to arrive in 4 months. Additionally, 2 tanks will be constructed.
Preparation is now underway to construct them.
Central and South Eleuthera MP Clay Sweeting has called that island's water woes totally unacceptable and extremely frustrating. Meantime, the Works and Utilities Minister says the land has been secured, but they've run into some challenges. Sayers explains how these tanks can relieve the challenges.
If one has to go down for maintenance, you will have a storage capacity that can meet the consumption demand.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Berthany McDermott.
Thanks, Berthany. While a police corporal remains in custody after investigators obtained an extension authorizing them to detain him beyond 48 hours, the corporal was arrested in connection with the December 3rd murder of 43-year-old Jason Whitfield. The senior clerk at the passport office was found shot multiple times in his government-issued car in Garden Hills. Officers from the Criminal Investigation Department arrested the corporal while he was on duty at the South Street Magistrate Complex on Monday, December 5th. Police have since arrested a 25-year-old relative of the officer in relation to the incident. Well, nice and cool conditions outside the Our News studios tonight. Forecaster Ian McKenzie has the latest from the Weather Center. Good evening, Ian.
Thanks, Italia, and good evening, Bahamas. Here's your first look at our weather for this evening. Currently outside our studios, we're under partly cloudy skies with a temperature of 74. Our winds are out of the northeast at 12 miles per hour with a feels-like temperature of 79. Satellite and radar overlook. Not much to talk about. We have a few clouds courtesy of that low pressure system that will continue to just meander and spin east of us. However, this low pressure system is expected to continue to generate moderate to large northeasterly swells across our area, which will prove hazardous to boating and beaching conditions. Outside of that, high pressure will remain the dominant weather feature, and this indeed will continue to produce dry and stable conditions across our area. Stay tuned for our extended forecast. It's still to come.
Still to come on our news live at 7:30. Delayed. The Gladstone Road improvement project has been delayed before getting off the ground. New details tonight, and pledges of support coming in for the Bahamas Association for the Physically Disabled, bringing them one step closer to expansion. Our Marlena Leonard has the story coming up. And how you can rep your Junkanoo group leading up to the big show on Boxing Day. That's all coming up when our news returns. Construction on the Gladstone Road improvement project slated to begin before the end of this year has been delayed. Assistant Engineer in the Ministry of Works, Dion Monroe, says there's no new date for construction. He also sought to explain the reason for the delay.
We can't give you a definite date as yet, but we look for middle of next year. But we can't give you a definite date. It's still completing design, and part of that design is some land acquisition and encroachment issues that we are dealing with, and also reposition of infrastructure that has to be moved out of the road reservation.
Now the construction is expected to last 2 years. The improvements were set to run the entire length of Gladstone Road, featuring 5 new major functions controlled by roundabouts. The project was pegged at about $29 million. When active funds were secured for the project, Works and Utility Minister Alfred Sayers said this.
Once the design is completed, the question then is money. We all live in the Bahamas. We know what the revenue challenges of the government are. Fortunately for the Bahamas, there are a number of additional sources to the consolidated fund. Multilateral sources, the IDB, the Caribbean Development Bank, and both institutions have expressed an interest in funding of Gladstone Road.
The Bahamas Association for the Physically Disabled has been hoping to be granted more land to expand their services and to be able to accommodate more students, while today's Social Services Minister Obi Wilchcombe declared his support for the expansion. Marlena Leonard reports.
The Rotary Club of East Nassau donated $10,000, a much welcome contribution to the BAPD, and just under the estimated $11,000 it takes to sponsor the 22 students for 1 month. And the support didn't stop there. While the BAPD currently has 22 students in its school's care, there are over 10 children on the waiting list. But for now, they simply don't have the space or the resources to accept them. The BAPD has been requesting land to build an expansion and acquire more faculty to be able to help more special needs children. Social Services Minister Obi Wilchcombe had this to say.
That the least we can do next year, as we observe our 50th anniversary and to coincide somewhat with the 50th of this year, we should secure the land just to the rear and ensure that you could extend these facilities to provide more.
Wilchcombe shared more with us on his plans to assist.
So I intend to speak with the Prime Minister and to secure the land so that they can cause for extension. And it's right on the property. They need it. There's a need for it, so I don't think it's going to be a major issue. The Prime Minister has a mandate, and it's his mantra: no one is to be left behind.
The BAPD has also said they'd need more faculty should the expansion come to fruition.
And for too long, we've treated these organizations, in my view, that they're there and they're just to exist. We played the politically correct thing. Well, we have to do a bit more now. We have to do more. We have to really show that we care. Let the evidence be there for all to see that we do care about the needs of our people. We do care about the people with special needs, and we will do all we possibly can. If the government can, the government must.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Marlena Leonard.
It's now time for tonight's Financial Market Minute, brought to you by RF, your local investment bank. This has been your Financial Market Minute. To explore the best performing mutual funds in the Bahamas, visit our website at www.rfgroup.com.
When our news comes back from the break, it's almost time to bounce to the beat of Junkanoo on Bay. But who will you be rapping?
Plus, coming up in sports for this evening, men's national baseball team coming up short against Cuba. They're still alive to get to the semifinals. We'll give you details on that. Coming up in sports, we'll also tell you the latest from both DeAndre Ayton and Buddy Hield's latest endeavors on the NBA floor. That's all coming up in sports.
Spreading Christmas cheer and smiles on Grand Bahama. We'll show you how on the other side of the break. This is Our News. Welcome back. Bahamians are ready for Junkanoo, and the age-old competitive nature of the parades is already in full swing. While we ask enthusiasts who they are excited to see this holiday season, Marlena Leonard has the story.
Junkanoo, I welcome you. Saxons, listen, I'm buying a ticket for Boxing and New Year, so you know it's serious, right?
Junkanoo fans may not have been on Bay for the past 2 years, but they definitely haven't forgotten how to rep their people.
Listen to me, I am a Saxons fan, and we are coming ready, okay? I already started playing my Junkanoo music, my Junkanoo CD, from September.
I choose to be with the Valley Boys because they are world famous. They are also the most organized Junkanoo group, and they have the history as well as the experience.
The first group I ever fell in love with was the Valley Boys, and then it was the Saxons, and now I'm one family. So I really love Junkanoo, you know. But we'll say one family for this lap.
Want to rep your group? Submit a short video explaining why you love your group to the Our News Bahamas Facebook inbox for a chance to be featured during this year's RTV Junkanoo broadcast. Reporting for Our News, I'm Marlena Leonard.
All right, fans are excited. Thanks, Marlena. And now switching to sports, as baseball once again taking center stage as the Bahamas is took on Team Cuba last night. Meanwhile, Buddy Hield and DeAndre Ayton on the floor as the NBA season continues. Here's Marcellus Hall with a check on sports.
All right, thanks, Natalia. Welcome to our sports, everybody. I'm Marcellus Hall. It was Bahamas men's national baseball team back in action as the Caribbean Baseball Cup continued at the Andre Rogers Baseball Diamond. Bahamas taking on Cuba in this one. and they would fall behind early. Bottom of the first inning, Cuba strikes for their first run. They would add 6 more runs in the 5th to go up 7-0. With 2 more in the 7th, they're now up 9-0. Team Bahamas now starting to get going. In the 9th, they score 3 runs, but too far down. They can't come all the way back. Cuba wins 9-3. The Bahamas falling to 1-3 so far in tournament play. Good news, though, they still advance to the semifinals. They will play again on Saturday, trying to get into the finals of this year's event. 4th version, again, has been going extremely well over at the Andre Rogers Diamond. Other news coming in this time from the NBA, as both Buddy Hield and DeAndre Ayton seeing action last night. Taking a quick look at how things went down for you in this get said and done. Not so good for DeAndre Ayton and the Phoenix Suns last night. They were at home against the Boston Celtics.
Still to come on our news, Grand Bahama residents receive gifts of love. We'll show you how straight ahead. And your extended forecast is still to come right after this break.
Welcome back to our news. Sunny to partly cloudy conditions this week as we move closer to the weekend. Ian is back in the Weather Center with your extended forecast. Ian?
Thanks again, Natalia, and welcome back, everyone. Here's your look at your extended forecast. We still have this area low pressure that will continue to spin and then move northeast of that area. However, as it moves further away, it will continue to generate some northeasterly swells across us. So we're asking you beachgoers and boaters to exercise extreme caution. Boaters remain in port. You beachgoers remain on shore. Outside of that, across the Bahamas, we're looking at fairly beautiful conditions courtesy of that high pressure system that will persist into early next week. Boating conditions, again, across all areas. Small craft operators are advised to remain in port due to those swells. Winds will be north to northeast at 10 to 15 knots. Your seas will be 2 to 4 feet near shore, but up to 7 to 11 feet offshore courtesy of those swells, and you'll have a high tide at 7:15 p.m. Here's a look at a national forecast. And in your extended forecast, we expect stable conditions to persist into early next week, courtesy of that high pressure system. We expect highs to be in the low 80s and the lows to be in the upper 60s into the low 70s. So that's beautiful conditions. Thanks for joining, everyone. Make it a great evening.
All right, Ian, thank you. Beautiful conditions. Well, police in the Northern Bahamas, along with other government agencies, taking time out to give back to those in need in various inner city communities in Grand Bahama. The police chief on that island says the initiative is just one way to give back to the communities they serve.
It speaks to the fact of a unified body cannot fail. Where there's unity, there will always be success. And as we come together in a form of unity, to make others happy and the underprivileged, to show some form of help.
Acting Deputy Commissioner of Police and his team distributing boxes filled with perishable items for the holidays in Grand Bahama. Residents getting an opportunity to speak one-on-one with representatives of several government agencies. The Our News team speaking with several residents in the community.
This is the second time they did it, and I really appreciate it. Thank God for them. I really appreciate it.
It brings me joy and happiness, because some people don't have it all the time, and it is a struggle.
From hurricane time and endemic time, the people really need help in Grand Bahama.
And they had this bit of advice for those who may be feeling discouraged this holiday season.
I lost a loved one, Big Bubba, and it hurts to know he wouldn't be here, but I could tell them God loved them. And the best thing they could do is give God the praise, and all things allotted unto them. They'll have a great Christmas.
The hope was on the way. You could feel it.
All right, positive news coming from my home, Grand Bahama. I love to see it. And thank you for joining us for our news tonight. On behalf of the entire team, I'm Natalia Hall. We'll see you tomorrow night. Have a great evening.